Have you ever noticed how people who create extraordinary results never talk about manifesting? The artists moving millions, entrepreneurs building empires, healers facilitating miraculous transformations, none of them are visualizing or aligning vibrations. They're doing something entirely different that the manifestation industrial complex has completely missed. Here's what I discovered after 7 years studying actual creators. They don't manifest anything. They channel. Not in the mystical sense, in the literal sense, of becoming a clear channel through which creation flows from source into form. When you manifest, you're using personal will to impose desired outcomes onto reality from a position of lack. It's exhausting and unsustainable. But when you channel, you become empty enough for something beyond your personal consciousness to express through you. You're not generating the creative impulse. You're receiving it from the unified field. This video reveals the 4 phases of true creation and why channeled work has its own life force that continues generating impact long after you're done.
Have you ever paid attention to the fact that people who produce the most remarkable outcomes in life rarely mention anything about manifesting? Stop and think about this for a second. The creative minds whose work touches millions of hearts. The business builders who construct something massive out of thin air. The transformation facilitators whose work seems almost magical. The visionaries who completely reshape how we see things. Not a single one of them spends their time visualizing, repeating affirmations, or attempting to tune their energy to match what they want. What they're actually doing is something completely different, something the entire manifestation industry has totally overlooked. And when you grasp what this something really is, your whole understanding of creation will shift forever. I'm about to reveal an insight that came to me after dedicating 7 years to studying how people who consistently generate incredible results actually create. Not the polished narrative they share during interviews or teaching events, not the neat story they construct once success has proven them right, but what genuinely takes place in that invisible zone between wanting something and watching it appear. What I found goes against nearly everything the manifestation world has been teaching you. The manifestation pattern nobody addresses. Let's examine what's really going on when you attempt to manifest something. You spot something you want. You picture it in your mind. You speak it into existence. You imagine the feeling of already having it. You make visual collages, write detailed scenarios, repeat powerful phrases, and try your absolute best to match your frequency with your desire. And occasionally, it actually happens. You receive what you wanted, the partnership appears, the funds show up, the chance presents itself, and your first thought is, amazing. Manifestation actually works. I made this happen. But then, something peculiar catches your attention. The thing that showed up doesn't create the feeling you expected it would. The relationship comes with unexpected challenges. And the money introduces problems you never saw coming. The opportunity demands compromises you hadn't considered. And before you know it, just weeks or months down the road, you're back at square one, trying to manifest again, attempting to repair, enhance, or level up what you just brought into your reality. This right here is the pattern. And it's not because your manifestation method failed. It's because there's a basic misunderstanding about what creation really means. When you're manifesting, you're functioning from a space of deficiency, attempting to become whole. You desire something because you think possessing it will help you feel whole, valuable, safe, or recognized. The whole approach is built on the idea that you're missing something right now, and you'll be complete later once the thing arrives. But here's what's genuinely happening at the most fundamental level. That frequency of feeling incomplete, that energy of I need this to feel okay, that signal of emptiness searching for fulfillment, that's exactly what you're transmitting into the universal field. And sure, sometimes you can temporarily override this with concentrated focus and charged emotion. You can build up sufficient force to bring a desired result into your physical reality. but the underlying foundation stays exactly the same. You're still functioning from the identical awareness that perceived itself as lacking. So either you draw in a twisted version of your desire, or you receive precisely what you visualized, and realize it doesn't actually fix the fundamental sense of incompleteness. This explains why manifestation turns into a never-ending loop. Receive the thing, experience temporary fulfillment, recognize it's not exactly right or not quite sufficient, manifest the next thing, continue this pattern indefinitely. Real creators don't operate this way. They're working within a totally different framework that most manifestation instructors haven't even encountered. What I learned by studying authentic creators. About 3 years back, I began having conversations with individuals who repeatedly produced exceptional results. Not manifestation experts or spiritual guides explaining what theoretically should work, but actual artists, researchers, business innovators, and creative pioneers whose tangible results spoke for themselves. I wanted to understand what they were genuinely doing during the creative process, not the motivational narrative designed for public speaking, the actual internal mechanics. And literally every single person said some variation of the exact same thing. I'm not creating anything. It creates itself, using me as the vessel. Initially, I assumed this was just modest language or artistic expression, but the deeper I looked, the clearer it became they were describing something concrete, something that occurs when you quit attempting to manifest through individual effort and begin permitting creation to happen through an entirely different system. Let me tell you what one creator shared with me. She's a musical composer whose pieces have been played by renowned orchestras around the globe. When I questioned how she creates, she explained, "I never sit down attempting to compose music. I don't visualize the completed work or establish intentions about its sound. That approach would only produce something I already understand. Instead, I become extremely still. I tune in, and eventually, I perceive something that isn't originating from within me. It's flowing through me. My entire responsibility is to capture it with precision and express it faithfully. If I attempt to manipulate it or mold it into what my mind thinks it should become, it vanishes instantly. But if I remain in this receptive mode, the music writes itself. I'm simply the channel it's playing through." I encountered different versions of this exact experience from everyone I spoke with. The researcher, who explained breakthrough insights, arrived when she quit trying to solve problems and permitted herself to be guided by something beyond her individual thinking. The business creator who developed several thriving ventures by following a pattern that continuously revealed itself instead of implementing fixed strategies. The transformation facilitator who catalyzes deep shifts by stepping aside and permitting whatever needs to unfold naturally. They weren't manifesting. They were becoming channels. Not in some mystical way of connecting with spirits or unseen beings, but in the concrete sense of becoming a passageway through which creation moves from pure potential into physical form. And this mechanism is fundamentally different from manifestation in ways that completely transform how you approach bringing anything into existence. The distinction between manifesting and becoming a channel. When you manifest, you're applying individual effort to force your preferred result onto existence. You hold a particular image of your desire. You build emotional charge around that image. You sustain that frequency until reality reshapes itself to reflect your mental picture. This demands massive amounts of energy. You must preserve the vision, maintain the emotional state, remain aligned with the frequency, defend yourself against uncertainty, and continue applying pressure until the result materializes. It's completely draining, and even when it produces results, you're constantly somewhat concerned that if you stop maintaining the frequency, the manifestation will dissolve because it actually might. If your creation depends on your individual will and continuous effort, then it needs your ongoing will and effort to remain in existence. Channeling functions in a totally different way. When you channel creation, you're not forcing anything onto reality. You're permitting reality to manifest something new using you as the vehicle. You're not producing the creative spark from your individual wants. You're receiving it from the universal field and translating it into form through your distinctive expression. This needs almost zero energy. Actually, it frequently feels like the creative process energizes you instead of exhausting you. You're not sustaining anything through struggle. You're riding an energy wave that carries its own force, its own wisdom, its own trajectory. And here's the essential distinction. What you channel doesn't require you to keep it alive. Once it's been brought through into physical form, it carries its own wholeness, its own animating force, its own capacity to continue. It exists separately from your ongoing focus or energy investment. Consider genuinely creative contributions that have persisted across centuries. The compositions that still touch people hundreds of years beyond the composer's lifetime. The creative works that keep generating fresh understanding and meaning. The concepts that continue developing and inspiring new breakthroughs. These weren't manifested using individual willpower. They were channeled through people who became transparent enough, receptive enough, and available enough to permit something eternal to manifest itself through their temporary physical presence. The 4 stages of authentic creation. After examining hundreds of creative processes, I recognized 4 clear stages that occur when someone creates through channeling instead of manifesting. And grasping these stages transforms everything about how you approach bringing anything new into physical reality. Stage 1. The clearing out. Before anything can channel through you, you must become spacious. Not empty in the way of missing something. Empty in the way of having availability. Most individuals are so packed with their own mental activity, convictions, assumptions, likes and dislikes, and personal plans that there's zero room for anything genuinely fresh to arrive. They approach creation with their thinking already decided about what needs to happen, how it needs to appear, what it must become. And from that fullness, the only thing they can produce is a somewhat reorganized version of what's already here. A new combination of familiar pieces, a twist on recognizable patterns, something that appears creative, but is actually just rearrangement. Authentic creation demands genuine spaciousness, a condition where you're not attempting to create anything particular, a space where you hold no plan for what needs to emerge, a receptivity that's prepared to be astonished, questioned, and guided in unanticipated directions. This explains why the most creative individuals have routines that generate spaciousness. Sitting in stillness, extended walking, long stretches of being alone, practices that settle the individual mind and open space for something beyond the individual to arise. But here's what most people overlook. Clearing out isn't a method you perform once before creating. It's an ongoing condition you sustain throughout the complete creative journey. The instant you refill with your own concepts about what you're creating, you've disconnected the channel and gone back to manifesting from individual willpower. Stage 2. The reception. Once you're spacious enough, something occurs that you can't manufacture or pretend. An impulse emerges not from your analytical mind, not from your emotional longings, not from your tactical planning. This impulse carries a different quality from your regular thoughts. It possesses a sense of correctness that doesn't need explanation. It registers like remembering something you've always carried, rather than learning something brand new. It holds an energy that desires to move, to manifest, to become physical. Creators describe this instant in different ways. I sensed a direction. I perceived a quiet voice. I witnessed a brief image. I understood what needed to be brought into being. But they're all describing the identical experience, receiving something that arrives from outside their individual awareness. This represents the most fragile stage because your thinking mind will instantly attempt to grab, examine, and dominate what you've received. It will desire to comprehend it, label it, determine how to apply it, and the instant you take that route, you distort the pure impulse. The ability here is to receive without clutching, to recognize the impulse without attempting to completely grasp it yet, to permit it to stay somewhat enigmatic, somewhat beyond your full understanding, while you simply recognize that something desires to be brought into form. Numerous potential creations dissolve in this stage, because individuals either reject the impulse as mere fantasy, or they instantly attempt to push it into practical use before it's had sufficient time to completely develop. Stage 3. The faith. This is where most individuals completely fail, because once you've received the creative impulse, your thinking mind will present very intense opinions about why this won't succeed, why it's unrealistic, why you need to pursue something different instead. The impulse might be requesting you to create something that carries no rational sense, something that doesn't align with your identity, your skills, your present direction, something that could distance your current audience, or demand abilities you don't possess, or guide you toward territories that feel uncertain. And your thinking mind will offer very persuasive reasons for why you need to adjust the impulse into something more sensible, more protected, more consistent with your current identity and situation. But here's what you must grasp. The creative impulse holds wisdom that your individual mind can't reach. It perceives things about where reality is heading that your rational thinking can't detect. It's linked to a wider pattern of development that your separate viewpoint can't observe. When you trust the impulse and pursue it, even when it carries no logic, you're permitting yourself to be guided by a greater intelligence. You're allowing creation to utilize you as its expression, instead of attempting to use creation as your instrument. This doesn't indicate disregarding all realistic factors or behaving carelessly. It indicates discovering how to separate between authentic practical limitations and mind-created opposition intended to maintain you in comfortable territory. The method to build this discernment is to observe what occurs when you pursue the impulse. Does energy expand or contract? Does the direction become clearer or more blocked? Do meaningful coincidences increase or vanish? Reality provides instant response about whether you're in the channel or attempting to dominate the channel. Stage 4. The permitting. Once you're pursuing the impulse, the concluding stage is the most contradictory. You must engage intensely while at the same time doing nothing. You appear, you exercise your abilities, you strengthen your capabilities, you invest the time, you polish, repeat, and enhance. But you're accomplishing all of this from a space of permitting what desires to emerge, instead of pushing what you desire to create. It's like being a birth assistant instead of a factory worker. The birth assistant doesn't create the infant. The infant is already developing through its own wisdom. The birth assistant simply supports the organic process, clears barriers, and establishes conditions that permit what desires to be born to arrive protected. Most individuals approach creative work as factory workers. They hold blueprints, deadlines, quality measurements, and fixed results. They're attempting to build something, following a design. And this factory approach generates massive resistance, because it's continuously battling against what genuinely desires to emerge. When you permit, you're collaborating with the wisdom of the creative impulse itself. You're allowing it to show itself through your activity, instead of attempting to force it into your predetermined picture. You're responsive instead of dominating, flexible instead of inflexible. This generates work that carries a quality of natural rightness. When it's finished, it registers like it could only be precisely what it is. There's nothing additional, nothing absent, nothing that could be enhanced by altering it, because it wasn't built following your likes and dislikes. It was permitted to transform into what it was always intended to be. Why this transforms everything. When you transition from manifesting to channeling, multiple things shift instantly. First, the worry around creation vanishes. When you're manifesting, you're continuously concerned about whether you're approaching it correctly, whether you're aligned sufficiently, whether your frequency is matching your desire, whether you're going to accomplish or fail. But when you're channeling, there's no personal self to accomplish or fail. You're simply a passageway. If the impulse is authentic and you remain in the channel, creation occurs through you naturally. The result isn't reliant on your individual capability. It's reliant on your clarity as a passageway. Second, the caliber of what you create completely transforms. Manifested results always bear the mark of individual desire. They're molded by your likes and dislikes, your boundaries, your current comprehension. They can only be as creative as your individual imagination. But channeled creations bear something beyond the individual. They possess a quality that astonishes even you. They hold understanding you weren't aware you possessed, answers you didn't deliberately plan, excellence that surpasses your intentional attempts. This explains why genuinely creative work frequently registers like it arrived through you instead of from you, because it actually did. Third, your connection with failure transforms completely. When you're manifesting, failure indicates you approached something incorrectly. You weren't aligned sufficiently. Your frequency was incorrect. You carried limiting convictions that prevented your manifestation. But when you're channeling, there's no such concept as failure. There's only remaining in the channel or disconnecting from it. And when you disconnect, you simply recognize, clear yourself once more, and come back to receptivity. The creation proceeds until it's finished, independent of how many times you temporarily disconnect from the channel. Fourth, continuation becomes natural. Manifested results need your persistent energy to preserve them, but channeled creations possess their own animating force. Once brought through, they keep developing, creating influence, and generating outcomes long beyond your active participation ends. Consider concepts that continue expanding decades beyond their creator's passing. Enterprises that keep flourishing long beyond the founder moved on. Creative contributions that shape culture centuries beyond creation. These weren't preserved by individual willpower. They were channeled with such transparency that they transformed into self-continuing patterns in the shared field. What prevents the channel? Now that you grasp what creation genuinely is, let's examine what stops it from occurring through you. The first prevention is the most apparent: attachment to particular results. The instant you require creation to generate a specific outcome that benefits your individual plan, you've shut the channel, because now you're back to manifesting, using creation as an instrument to obtain what you desire, instead of permitting creation to manifest what desires to emerge. This doesn't indicate you can't hold intentions or likes and dislikes, but those intentions must be carried loosely as options instead of demands. You contribute your intention into the creative field and stay receptive to receiving something different if that's what desires to emerge. The second prevention is identification with being the creator. When you think, "I am creating this," you've positioned yourself between pure potential and physical form. You've transformed yourself into the go-between, who must deliberately guide the creative process, and your individual awareness is way too restricted to channel the complete wisdom that's attempting to manifest. Authentic creators understand they're not creating anything. They're being created through their temporary concentration points, through which boundless creativity temporarily focuses itself into particular forms. They're channels being utilized, not players utilizing channels. The third prevention is hurrying. Creation possesses its own rhythm that frequently doesn't align with your individual schedule. Something might require time to develop for months before it's prepared to emerge. It might require you to strengthen certain abilities before you can channel it transparently. It might require waiting for circumstances to come together that aren't yet available. When you hurry, you push something out before it's completely developed. You create too early, and the outcome bears that premature quality. It's useful, but not animated. It accomplishes a function, but doesn't carry the transformative capacity of something that emerged in its own correct rhythm. The fourth prevention is uncertainty, pretending as realistic thinking. Your thinking mind will repeatedly explain that pursuing the creative impulse is unrealistic, dangerous, unwise. It will offer rational reasons for why you need to pursue something more practical instead. But this isn't authentic, practical intelligence. This is self-defense, pretending as logic, because pursuing the creative impulse frequently demands you to leave protected territory and move into unexplored space. It requests you to transform into someone you haven't existed as yet, to strengthen abilities you don't presently possess, to rely on something invisible over something visible. Genuine realistic thinking supports the creative impulse by discovering intelligent methods to apply it. False realistic thinking utilizes practical worries to eliminate the impulse completely. The routine that opens the channel. Everything I've revealed so far is directing toward one basic routine that all authentic creators practice, whether they express it this way or not. Becoming deliberately spacious while staying completely alert. This is not traditional meditation in the way of reaching some tranquil condition. This is engaged receptivity, conscious spaciousness. Transparent space that's prepared to receive whatever desires to arrive through. Here's how to engage in it. Designate time when you're not attempting to create anything particular. This is essential. If you enter this routine with a plan, I'm going to channel my next business concept, or I'm going to receive direction about my partnership, you've already occupied the space with your plan and prevented the channel. Sit or rest in a position where you can be at the same time relaxed and conscious. Let your physical body settle completely. Release holding systematically from every muscle area. Not attempting to accomplish anything, simply permitting release. Once your physical body is settled, direct your focus to the space surrounding your mental activity. Not attempting to halt thoughts or dominate them, simply recognizing that thoughts emerge in a space, travel through that space, and dissolve back into space. Rest your focus in that space, not on thoughts themselves, but on the space they emerge in. This is the spaciousness I'm indicating. Not emptiness in the way of nothingness, but receptive space in the way of boundless potential. As you rest in this space, recognize that it's not inactive or lifeless. There's an aliveness to it, an energy, a wisdom that exists before thought develops. This is the creative origin. This is what desires to manifest through you when you're transparent enough to receive it. Now, without departing that spacious condition, welcome creation, not by requesting something particular, not by visualizing or intending, simply by being present, by quietly expressing, I'm here, I'm receptive. If something desires to arrive through, I'm prepared to receive it. Then wait, not restlessly, not with expectation. Just stay in receptive availability. What occurs next can't be anticipated or dominated. Sometimes an impulse emerges instantly. Sometimes nothing occurs for the complete session. Sometimes you drift into sleep. Sometimes your thinking mind refills with mental activity, and you must repeatedly come back to spaciousness. None of this indicates anything about whether you're approaching it correctly. You're simply exercising the condition that permits channeling to happen. And the more you exercise this condition, the more readily you can reach it in the center of engaged creation. Because that's the genuine ability. Sustaining this spacious, receptive condition while at the same time involved in whatever you're creating. Writing while spacious, constructing while receptive, speaking while channeling, moving while permitting. This is how creators function. They've discovered to reach this condition not just in stillness, but in the center of engaged involvement. They're at the same time occupied with concentrated activity and spacious of individual plan, completely involved while totally released. What genuinely gets created? When you create through channeling instead of manifesting, what emerges carries clear qualities that are instantly identifiable. First, it bears awareness or understanding that you didn't deliberately hold. You examine what you've created and think, where did that arrive from? I wasn't aware I understood that, because you weren't. It arrived through you from a dimension of wisdom beyond your individual understanding. Second, it possesses universal connection while being particularly manifested. It addresses something eternal and fundamental while being completely distinctive and specific to this instant. This is how creative contribution can be completely fresh, while at the same time registering like it's always existed. Third, it creates outcomes beyond your intention. You might create something thinking it will accomplish one function and it ends up influencing areas you never thought about. It develops a life of its own, shaping and affecting in methods that astonish even you. Fourth, it enhances everything it contacts. Authentic creation is naturally regenerative. It doesn't extract worth from one location to generate worth in another. It produces fresh worth that expands wellness across all the systems it interacts with. Fifth, it registers as natural once it exists. Before creation, it might have appeared impossible or extremely unlikely, but once it's been brought through, it registers like the most organic thing in existence, like it was always intended to exist, and you simply translated it into form. These are the characteristics of channeled creation, and when you begin identifying them, you can recognize which creators are authentically channeling and which are just producing variations on current patterns. The transformation that alters everything. So here's the understanding that shifts your complete approach to creation. You are not someone manifesting attempting to force your desires onto existence. You are a passageway through which existence manifests fresh expressions of itself, your individual desires, your particular intentions, your separate likes and dislikes. These are not barriers to creation, but they're also not the origin of creation. They're simply qualities that influence how boundless creativity manifests through your distinctive arrangement. When you attempt to manifest, you're trying to utilize your restricted individual capacity to push reality into a form that benefits your continuation and fulfillment. And sure, sometimes this succeeds, but it's exhausting, impossible to maintain, and it disconnects you from the vastly greater creative capacity that desires to manifest through you. When you discover to channel, you quit attempting to create from your limited self and permit creation to occur through you, from the boundless origin that produces all form. You transform into a cooperative participant with existence itself, instead of someone attempting to control existence for individual benefit. This doesn't indicate you quit holding likes and dislikes or intentions. It indicates you carry them loosely while staying deeply available to whatever desires to emerge. You contribute your distinctive expression as a passageway while releasing dominance over what gets manifested. And paradoxically, this release generates far greater outcomes than all your individual struggling ever could. Because now you're not restricted by your individual imagination, your separate ability, your limited resources. You're linked to the identical creative origin that produces star systems and coordinates natural systems and develops awareness itself. That origin desires to create through you. It's been waiting for you to become spacious enough, receptive enough, available enough to channel it transparently. It holds expressions waiting to arrive through your particular arrangement that can't arrive through anyone else. Your only responsibility is to step aside, to quit attempting to manifest your limited desires and begin permitting boundless creativity to manifest its unlimited nature through your temporary physical presence. This is what creators genuinely do. This is why they never discuss manifesting, because they're not manifesting anything. They're being manifested through. And that transforms everything. The inquiry isn't whether you can discover to create this way. The inquiry is whether you're prepared to quit manifesting long enough to realize that you've always been a passageway for creation itself. Before we continue, I want to welcome you into something authentic. If you've been sensing like something's clicking into place, and if a piece of you is awakening to your own capacity, hit like if you just experienced an aha moment, because similar energy attracts similar energy, and subscribe. Remain with this frequency. Expand with us. In the comments, share one word that represents the energy you're selecting to embody moving forward. Maybe it's alignment, maybe it's flow, maybe it's trust, maybe it's something distinctly yours. Let that word be a small but meaningful statement, a transmission, like a quantum seed you plant not just in this space, but in the universal field. Make sure you share this video with your friends and family. You could be a blessing in disguise for them. Remember, you are not just sharing, you are spreading transformative wisdom, and that positive energy will amplify what you're calling in.